And we're back from break. We're joined now by a guest who really needs no introduction for our audience, but he is the former sheriff of Graham County, Arizona, and you know him better as Sheriff Richard Mack. Thanks for joining us, sir.
Hey, Aaron. Good to be with you
again. Well, tell us what all you're up to, because it's quite a bit.
Well, as you know, we just completed our first Constitutional Sheriff Convention in Las Vegas, and that was January 30th, and I'm going to tell you, it was just an absolute resounding success. We did a grassroots effort to raise the money for this event. We paid for all the sheriff's travel expenses, we paid for the hotel, we paid for their food, and the people all across America made that happen for us. And now, absolutely, we want to have another one, and we're planning to have another one. And what this convention did for all of us, including the sheriffs that were there, it proved this works. And I mean, here we have the Denver Post article about it, and what is the headline? Emerging movement encourages sheriffs to act as a shield against federal tyranny. And people want to call that crazy or radical.
Couldn't be more constitutional.
It's absolutely constitutional. It's American, for God's sakes. Nobody should do anything about tyranny. Just let the federal government do whatever they're going to do. Right now, we have the EPA shutting down land, and this was part of our presentation.
Yeah.
And now we have Amish farmers in Indiana and Ohio and Pennsylvania, Maryland, and where I just came back from, Wisconsin. The FDA was going after David Hostetler in Indiana because he wouldn't pasteurize his milk. You know, and again, I don't care what religion any American is. I don't care what your personal beliefs are.
You know, we've got this here just to bring up. The Queen has been caught loving raw milk, but she won't let Canadians drink it. We're not supposed to drink it here. I've been drinking raw milk. I think it's really good for you. It's got all the amino acids in there. And
it is really good for you. This is a farm that's been in their family for a long time. And all this is they feed cows grass. That's it, grass. And then they take the milk and put it in some containers right from the cows, and they provide it to some of their friends and family members and neighbors.
But that's why we had to bring back the conversation about the Constitution, because it's Alice in Wonderland otherwise. I mean, what do you think about the whole GMO issue? They're doing all this lab-made food, so-called, and they won't even label it, and they're fast-tracking that stuff, but they're shutting down organic food conventions in Nevada, and because it's not an isolated case with the Amish. It's lemonade stands. It's everything.
Lemonade stands, exactly. You know, the 7-year-old girl in California got arrested or something, or charged or fined, ticketed by cops because she wasn't licensed to do lemonade. A lot of what my book is about is that very issue, the magic of gun control. It sounds like I'm only talking about gun control, but quite frankly, I'm talking about all the abuses going on. There's magic in our government. Only our government can keep us safe.
Exactly.
Only gun control can keep us safe. And world history has taught us that all that is a big farce. So you have to believe, if you're going to believe today's politicians, you have to believe that there's magic.
Yeah.
You know? And everybody should be just simply saying, let's live and let live in this country. I don't know why our government doesn't go by that one simple rule. Live and let live. If I'm not hurting anybody else, and of course these Amish farmers would never hurt anybody. They're completely the most peaceful people on the face of the planet. Good, honest American people. And of course, what does our government do? Our government hasn't got one simple thing straight for a long time. Leave people alone. Government has to leave me alone unless I'm hurting someone else. And as the Denver Post pointed out, it is a movement. It's an emerging movement. And it is. And it is a successful one. And it is a powerful one. And one of the sheriffs from Oregon said that some of the sheriffs out in the West and in Oregon told him not to attend because our convention was going to be too radical. And this sheriff came up and told him, shook my hand and said, hey, you know, I was told not to come to this because it was too radical. And he said, there's nothing radical here. This is just America.
Yeah, the Denver Post, it wasn't really a bad article, but they kind of made it sound like, oh, it's scary that citizens are asking their sheriffs to attend this event. and telling them they're not going to vote for them if they don't want to be constitutional.
Oh, man, you don't want to do that.
Right.
You see, a constituent doesn't have the right to do that.
And we've got some of the photos on the screen, by the way.
Now, that's Peggy Littleton and her county sheriff. Peggy Littleton is a county commissioner from Colorado. Mm-hmm. Sheriff Makita is standing there next to her, and he's her county sheriff. They are working together to oppose and nullify the NDAA, actually trying to protect their citizens in tandem, which in my book I say, there's an equation in my book, a constitutional county commissioner plus a constitutional sheriff equals liberty. And that's all we're talking about. And let's make a point very clear here. I have never advocated violence against the federal government.
Of course.
And I will never. And now I'm suing the Southern Poverty Law Center, as you're very much aware.
Right.
Because they said I did. And that has caused a great deal of damage towards me and what I'm trying to do, because all their publications get out all over the country to law enforcement agencies. And in fact, Time magazine even said that I said that, and I guess they were quoting the Southern Poverty Law Center. Well, I'm plain and simply not going to put up with it anymore. The Southern Poverty Law Center is such a dishonest organization, and they've lied about me since 1994. When all of a sudden I'm so shocked that I'm in these books from Morris Dees and the Southern Poverty Law Center, that I'm some horrible threat and terrorist. And do you know all that I did to gain that honor?
You didn't believe in the magic.
I did not believe in the magic. And, all I did was file a lawsuit against the Clinton administration to stop the Brady Bill, because the federal government wanted to force me into compliance and to go along with their idiotic, stupid mandates to comply with the Brady Bill. And I just simply said, the federal government can't tell me what to do. Is that so hard? Is that so wrong? That makes me a terrorist because I don't want to go along with the Clinton administration and this ridiculous violation of the Constitution known as the Brady Bill.
And that went all the way to the Supreme Court, and you beat them.
And I beat them. This is what happens when we have career politicians. This is what happens when people stay in Washington, D.C. too long. Because, yeah, we need to get rid of all the incumbents. I have a bumper sticker that says, re-elect no one. And the Founding Fathers never intended that we'd have career politicians. In my book, I quote Madison, and he says that the American people will lose more freedom from those in power than by any sudden war or attack from a foreign enemy. This is where we're at today. Our own government and our own leaders destroying our Constitution, trampling the principles of freedom that our country was founded upon. Why don't we hold them accountable for this? You know, and quite frankly, it's not a political thing, it's not a Democrat thing, it's not a Republican thing. We've got to stand on principle in this country. We've got to stand for the Constitution.
Sheriff, let's talk more about the NDAA, because I know you studied history. You know about Soviet Russia and China and the Stasi in East Germany. And isn't Homeland Security and the NDAA moving us all dangerously close to those trends? It's just classical tyranny, and they think they're going to bring that down on this country. And I don't know if people are talking enough about NDAA, but we've got states saying no, passing bills saying they're not going to go along with it.
Right.
You've already talked about the people at the county level.
Right.
Let's talk some more about that.
Well, it was a big part of our Constitutional Sheriff Convention. The NDAA came up frequently, and that our federal government could be so blatant and open about such a horrible violation of the Constitution. This is basically our own government declaring war on our own Bill of Rights, declaring war on freedom and liberty. So Agenda 21 was another big thing that we talked about at our convention. And I have to tell you too, though, the entire convention started with a film that I put together that simply showed all the abuses going on in America. Mm-hmm. Then we went right into Michael Badnarik's 1-hour review of the Bill of Rights. And then I did a half-hour deal on my Supreme Court case that you were just talking about, and how that restores the 10th Amendment and state sovereignty. And so right after that, we went to a break, and I had a sheriff from Texas come up to me, and he said, "Sheriff, I've got to tell you something. I was really wondering about coming to this convention." And he put his hands up to his face and goes like this. you got me. And, you know, I was so thrilled with that. And I said, you know what? The spirit of freedom was so strong in that room, you could cut it with a knife. And it was obvious that this sheriff felt it. He knew what he was talking about. He knew what he had felt. And here he comes now with a complete, almost like a testimonial, saying, you got me. It worked. Whatever you had here. And we'd only been into the conference 2.5 hours. This thing went all day. It started at 7:30 in the morning and went till 9:30 at night.
Now, can people not in law enforcement see these films too? Because this sounds like a good resource.
Yes, yes, you can, and you can get all this at the countysheriffproject.org, and we'll take back America again. I still believe, more than anything, as I've said here on this program before, that the best way to take America back is county by county, state by state, sheriff by sheriff, county commissioners working together with sheriffs to defend the United States Constitution and my personal and your personal God-given rights.
But this is all about the 10th Amendment. Governments always go out of control, and it's always because of centralized power.
Right.
That's why the founders wanted as many checks and balances at every level as they could. And that's what you're doing here. You started with 90 sheriffs out of, what, 3,000?
Correct.
Isn't that close to 3%? Isn't that what we had in the Revolutionary
War? Yeah.
So I'd say that's a good start.
But I'll tell you, this is going to expand. And a lot the sheriffs who were there, as you can see the quotes from the sheriffs in Denver and Colorado, they really liked it. And of course, you know, there's a sheriff saying, obviously, I don't want violence against other law enforcement officers. Well, we don't either.
Obviously.
But you know, you want to guarantee that not happening? Do you want to guarantee, anybody here listening to the program, anybody at Infowars.com, do you want to guarantee that that won't happen? Then get your sheriff involved in the process, and I'll guarantee that we'll keep this peaceful.
Right.
Okay? That'll make it happen. And we had 90 sheriffs who are witnesses now that we are not asking for violence. We are trying to find a way to prevent it. And in fact, you want to go through history? Rosa Parks was arrested by people who had badges on. Rosa Parks should have been taken home by those two officers, not to jail.
Right.
Oh, you mean don't enforce the law? That's exactly what I mean. When the law becomes destructive of freedom and liberty, we got to have sheriffs and peace officers and deputies and county commissioners who stand against stupid laws. That's what I'm about. And now tell me which one is more correct. Which one keeps the peace? Protecting Rosa Parks and escorting her home, or sending her to jail? Well, that's what they want to do with us today. Our government has never stopped putting people at the back of the bus. They just go from one group to another. Gun owners, I'm afraid, are going to be next.
Well, I like what you have to say about the magic quip, because they just want us to transfer all the power behind the Wizard of Oz's curtain.
Exactly.
And just
I like
trust
that.
them,
You
right?
got it.
I mean,
Yeah, you got it, Aaron. That's exactly right. This exposes the men behind the curtain.
I mean, who do they think we are? Who do we think they are? We know what they're doing up there.
Yeah, very good. I like that.
So, yeah, we do have to put a balance of power back, and obviously it does start at the county and state level. So,
Well, my case says that. I'm glad you brought balance of power, because Justice Scalia, in our Supreme Court victory, he actually said that the solution to all of this is simply maintaining a healthy balance of power between the states and the federal government.
yeah.
So that's all we're after. We're not after hurting anybody or destroying anybody. Yeah, we want government off our backs. We want the federal government to be responsible, and we want to cut the federal bureaucracies. That's it. Now, the federal government has already proved they won't do that. So what's the only answer left? State sovereignty. The states have to do it. And so there's nothing radical, there's nothing subversive about it, there's nothing illegal, unlawful, or violent. This is an effective means exercising a peaceful solution to a horrible problem that the federal government has caused. And even Scalia says that word in my decision. He said that the 10th Amendment and the enumeration of powers, the discrete and enumerated powers granted to the federal government, are rendered express by the 10th Amendment. So it is expressly forbidden that the federal government go outside Article 1, Section 8. That's what they ought to call our movement, Article 1, Section 8.